Imagine yourself inside a packed auditorium at the Miami Beach Convention Center. The lights are blazing. The crowd is electric. Thousands of people packed shoulder to shoulder, cheering, clapping, roaring with energy. All eyes are on one man standing center stage. Donald Trump is mid-speech, his voice booming through the microphone full of fire, promising a stronger America than ever before. The air is charged tense and alive, like the whole world is holding its breath, hanging on every word. Everything is under control, perfectly choreographed, from the lighting to the tight-knit security detail backstage. No one expected what was about to happen next. From the press area, a figure begins to walk forward. Not rushed, not loud, just steady, deliberate steps. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Phones shoot up. Flashlights burst like a swarm of fireflies. It's Denzel Washington. Yes, that Denzel. The man with a voice that could silence a room or move a nation. He's wearing a sharp black suit, his eyes focused, unshaken. And in that instant, the atmosphere shifts. Trump pauses mid-sentence. His voice falters. His eyes squint, trying to make sense of what he's seeing. The crowd erupts, some shouting in protest, others in stunned curiosity. Who let him in here? This is a political arena, not Hollywood. But Denzel doesn't flinch. He raises his hand not in defiance, but to make one simple request. 90 seconds. That's all he asked for, just 90 seconds to speak. Could that be enough to change the mood of a room? Maybe even change the course of a nation? Stay with us, because this isn't just a moment. It's a reminder that sometimes all it takes is one voice, one moment to shake the world. And you won't want to miss a single second of what comes next. The crowd inside the Miami Beach Convention Center was buzzing when a lone figure suddenly appeared. Denzel Washington. Trump stood on stage, gripping the podium, eyes sweeping across the crowd. He was trying to regain his rhythm after the shock. This is a political convention, not Hollywood, he snapped. The audience split in two. One side erupted in chants for Trump. The other raised their phones, flashlights popping like stars in the night. Security moved quickly, but Denzel stood firm at the end of the aisle, completely composed. He raised a hand, calm, not confrontational. "I just need 90 seconds, he said. His voice rang out clear, commanding without a mic. 90 seconds to say what we all need to hear. The room tensed like a drawn bow. Trump scoffed. "You want to talk? Start a podcast, Denzel." But then a voice broke through. An elderly woman stood up shouting, "Let him speak." Scattered applause followed. Then a man in a baseball cap rose to his feet. "I want to hear him." Trump frowned. Then with a wave of his hand signaled security to stand down. "Fine," he said into the mic, voice tinged with sarcasm. 90 seconds. Make it count." Denzel walked forward slowly, stopping just below the stage. "I'm not here to argue politics," he began. "This isn't about parties. It's about people. We've stopped listening to each other just because we hear a name we don't like." He paused. "Where I grew up," people argued, but they still sat at the same dinner table. "If we can't even give each other 90 seconds, we're not saving America. We're tearing it apart." The room fell into absolute silence. Denzel looked around the hall. "We're not enemies. We're Americans. And if one different voice is enough to make this room afraid, then we've already lost more than a debate." A single clap broke the silence. Then another. Soon the entire room stood applauding. Not loudly, but genuinely. A man stood and said, "I'm a Trump supporter." But he's right. Trump stepped back to the microphone, his voice a little softer now. "Well, that's America, folks." But everyone knew that moment belonged to Denzel. Denzel Washington's moment didn't end in that auditorium. Less than 15 minutes later, a short phone-recorded video was posted on X. It showed Denzel standing just below the stage, voice deep and steady, calling for something rare, listening. The clip spread like wildfire. Within 20 minutes, it had over 150,000 likes. Comments flooded in. "I never thought an actor could make me stop and think like that. This is how we should talk without yelling." By that evening, both CNN and Fox News aired the clip. Headline: Denzel Washington shakes Miami with 90 seconds of truth. But not everyone was impressed. Some conservative commentators called it a stunt, an ambush meant to embarrass Trump. Yet Denzel's calm, sincere tone made those criticisms feel hollow and short-lived. Backstage, Trump was pacing, clearly agitated. "Who let him in?" "This was a setup, right?" A staffer, visibly nervous, replied. He was invited by Congresswoman Clara Thompson. No one expected him to actually show. Trump gripped his water bottle tightly. He was too calm. That wasn't spontaneous. That was a plan. Senior advisor James Carter spoke quietly. "You didn't lose the room, sir." But he took the moment. No one's talking about policy now. They're talking about him. Trump sat down, eyes locked on a monitor, replaying the now viral clip. "I respect the strategy," he muttered, "but I won't let him win." His team rushed to draft a press release trying to regain the narrative. But they were already a beat too late. The internet had moved on hours ahead of them. Meanwhile, Denzel exited through the hotel lobby. Same steady pace, same calm demeanor. A few people recognized him. No shouting, just quiet thank yous. One man in a blue button-down shirt stepped forward. He introduced himself as Tom Bradley, a truck driver and longtime Trump supporter. "I don't agree with you on a lot of things," he said, "but you made me think maybe it's time we sit down and talk instead of yelling across the table." Denzel nodded. "The fact that you're listening, that's all I ever hoped for." Someone nearby caught the moment on video. It hit the internet hours later, fuel to a fire that hadn't burned out. That night, Denzel sat in a small cafe with his team. His phone buzzed constantly, texts, calls, notifications piling up. One message made him pause. It was from his mother. "You did good. Stay true to that truth." He smiled softly, but his eyes grew distant. "I don't want to be a headline," he said to his assistant. "I just want people to see a human being, not an enemy." His assistant, Maria Lopez, was scrolling through X. "They're calling it a turning point," she said. "Even people who hate politics are sharing it." Denzel leaned back, thoughtful. "It's sad, isn't it? That just speaking calmly feels like something revolutionary. This wasn't just another viral video. It was a reminder. Sometimes one honest voice is enough to shake an entire nation." Denzel Washington's 90-second moment didn't stop at the walls of the convention hall. Within 24 hours, the video was shared millions of times on X, TikTok, and Instagram. People wrote, "I never thought an actor could make me reflect on my country like that." Denzel said the things politicians are too afraid to say. Major networks ran with it. NBC called it a rare moment of unity in a divided era. Even the local Miami papers led with "Denzel shakes America with simple truth." But not everyone applauded. Some conservative pundits dismissed it as a stage stunt, a calculated move to steal the spotlight from Trump. Yet Denzel's unshakable calm and quiet sincerity made the criticism feel hollow. Gradually, it faded. Behind the scenes, Trump was still trying to reclaim control. He paced, voice low and irritated. "They're talking about him, not me. This is my convention." James Carter, his senior advisor, tried to reassure him, "You still have your audience, sir." But Denzel changed the narrative. "No one's talking about policy anymore. They're talking about listening." Trump sat down, eyes fixed on the screen, playing the now iconic clip. "He didn't even raise his voice," Trump muttered. "That's what pisses me off the most." Outside, Denzel returned to his hotel, searching for a moment of peace. But peace didn't last long. As he entered the lobby, a young woman in a nurse's uniform approached. "My name's Maria," she said, her voice trembling. "My father's a Trump supporter. Last night after watching your video, for the first time he said maybe we should hear both sides." Denzel looked at her, eyes warm but steady. "Thank you, Maria," he said. "Your father listened. That's the first step." Someone nearby caught the exchange on camera. The clip spread quickly, another emotional beat in a rising tide. The next morning, Denzel sat down for an interview with veteran local journalist Laura Bennett. "I've never seen a room go that still," Laura said. "What made you do it?" Denzel was thoughtful. "I didn't want to be a moment," he said. "I just wanted people to see we can disagree without turning each other into enemies. If I'd yelled," he continued, "they wouldn't have heard me. But if I stayed calm, they had to choose listen or walk away. Most chose to listen." Laura leaned in. "Were you scared?" Denzel smiled faintly. "I've stood in smaller rooms with louder men, but what scared me more was the idea of staying silent." He paused, his eyes heavy with thought. "It's sad, really, that speaking calmly is now considered a bold act." This was no longer just a viral clip. It had become a reminder. A single, honest voice without shouting can still reach the heart of an entire nation. Denzel Washington's 90-second moment wasn't just a viral video. It became a spark igniting conversations across America. 2 days later, social media was still on fire. One user wrote, I've watched this clip over and over. It made me want to listen instead of argue. Another shared. I sent the video to my family. We haven't spoken in a year because of politics. Morning shows brought on experts to break down every word Denzel said. Some hailed him as a surprising hero. Others questioned whether he was just chasing attention. But the way he held his calm in a tense, divided room made the criticism fall flat. Denzel returned to Miami, trying to slip back into his normal life. He stopped by a small diner in Overtown, hoping for a quiet hour. But quiet didn't last long. Jamal, a young waiter, approached his table. "I watched your video," he said. "My dad's a hardcore Trump supporter. He's never listened to anyone with a different view. But after that video, he called me and said, 'Maybe we need to sit down and talk.'" Denzel nodded, his gaze warm and steady. "Your dad listened," he said. "That's what matters most." Even that small exchange was caught on camera. The clip went viral on TikTok, racking up hundreds of thousands of views. One comment read, "This is why we need people like Denzel." At a television studio later that week, Denzel sat down with veteran journalist Michael Torres. "You've changed how people see dialogue," Michael said. "Are you going to keep this going?" Denzel shook his head. "I don't want to be a symbol," he said. "I just want to remind people we can disagree and still respect each other. Staying calm isn't weakness. It's the strength that brings us closer." Michael leaned in. "Then what's your advice for the people watching?" Denzel paused. "Next time you're in an argument with a coworker, a friend, or someone in your family, take a breath. Listen, not to agree, but to understand. That's how we rebuild trust." He looked directly into the camera. "This lesson isn't just for politics. It's for life." After the interview, he received a text from an old acquaintance, a school teacher in Miami. "My students watched your video," she wrote. "They're learning how to listen to one another. Thank you." Denzel smiled. But he knew this moment was bigger than him. It was about a country trying to heal. And now it's your turn. What did you feel during Denzel's moment? If this story moved, you share it. And if 90 seconds can change a room, just imagine what one honest conversation could do. A week after Denzel Washington's 90-second moment, America was still talking. Across social media, hashtags like #ListenLikeDenzel and #United States of Views were everywhere. Millions of people shared their own stories, how they had bridged divides. One user wrote, "I called my brother after years of silence. Denzel's video made me realize it was time to start again." In Miami, schools began showing the clip in classrooms, teaching students how to truly listen during disagreements. Churches hosted community dialogues inspired by Denzel's message. One pastor said, "For the first time, my congregation wanted to hear opposing views without getting angry." Of course, not everyone agreed. Some critics called Denzel an opportunist. But the way he refused the spotlight and stayed focused on the message made those criticisms fade away. One early morning, Denzel quietly returned to Miami for a small gathering at a youth center in Liberty City. No microphones, no cameras, just a conversation. A young girl named Kayla stood up, her voice shaking. "You made me believe I can speak my mind without yelling. My family's torn apart by politics, but I want them to listen to me like you made that room listen." Denzel looked at her eyes filled with quiet encouragement. "Kayla, you did the hardest thing," he said. "You chose to speak." The small crowd clapped, not out of spectacle, but out of something real. A woman standing beside Kayla wiped away tears. "Thank you," she whispered. There were no cameras that day, but the story spread through word of mouth. A new kind of symbol was born, not on a stage, but in real life. Later that week, in his final Miami interview, veteran journalist Sarah Collins asked, "You've started a movement. Do you think this moment will change how we talk to each other?" Denzel shook his head. "I didn't start a movement," he said. "I just reminded people we're human beings before we're political sides. And if we don't listen, we can't heal." Sarah leaned in. "Do you have any advice?" Denzel looked straight into the camera. "Next time you want to shout in an argument, stop. Take a deep breath. Listen not to reply, but to understand. That's how we find our way back to each other." This moment was never just about Denzel. It was about a country hungry to reconnect. And now, it's your turn. Have you ever listened to someone you didn't agree with? If so, share your story. And if 90 seconds could inspire an entire nation, just imagine what one conversation could do. Denzel Washington's 90 seconds were no longer just a moment. They had become a movement spreading across America. 2 weeks after the event in Miami, from Seattle to Atlanta, dozens of cities were hosting community gatherings inspired by his simple call to listen. In Atlanta, a group of college students started a club called Talk Without Yelling, a space where people shared their views without raising their voices. On X, the hashtag number Listen Like Denzel hit tens of millions of views. One user wrote, "I sat down with a coworker I used to argue with all the time. This time we didn't agree, but we actually listened." The media kept reporting. Headlines echoed across television and print. Denzel Washington sparks hope for a united America. Naturally, there were skeptics. Some dismissed it as a passing trend. But Denzel was different. He refused to be the center of attention. And that's exactly what made the noise fade and the message grow louder. He returned to Miami for a community event at Liberty City Park. No speeches, no stage, just a circle of people listening. An older man named Robert Jackson stood up, voice trembling but firm. "I lost my son over political fights in my family. After I saw your video, I called my daughter-in-law. We cried, we talked, and for the first time, we truly heard each other." The crowd went silent, then broke into applause. Not out of emotion, but respect. Denzel walked over, placing a hand on Robert's shoulder. "You did what most people won't. You opened your heart." The moment was caught on camera, posted on TikTok, and once again, it spread like wildfire. In his final interview, journalist Anna Rivera asked, "You've inspired millions. What do you think happens next?" Denzel smiled, his voice low and steady. "I didn't come here to lead a movement. I just wanted people to remember we're human beings before we wear any label. Listening doesn't mean losing. It's how we find each other again." Anna leaned in. "So, what's your final piece of advice?" Denzel looked straight into the camera. "Find someone you disagree with. Invite them for coffee. Hear their story, not to argue but to understand. That's how we rebuild trust." This moment was never just about Denzel. It was about a country learning how to talk to each other again. And now, it's your turn. Have you ever truly listened to someone you once thought was your opposite? If so, share your story. If 90 seconds could spark a movement, just imagine what one conversation could do. 1 month after the moment at Miami Beach, Denzel Washington's 90 seconds had become the spark behind a national movement. From Los Angeles to Boston, cities large and small were hosting listening days, gatherings in parks, libraries, and community halls, where people came not to argue but to share. A local organizer in Chicago posted, "We had over 300 people from all walks of life show up just to listen to one another." The hashtag number Listen Like Denzel continued to spread across social media. One user shared, "I spoke with a neighbor I hadn't talked to in years. We still disagreed, but this time we actually understood each other." National news stations ran headlines like "Denzel Washington Ignites a Movement to Heal America." Of course, skeptics remained. Some said it was just a wave of emotion, that it could never fix what runs so deep. But Denzel didn't seek the spotlight. He refused to become a symbol. And that quiet determination slowly silenced the noise. He returned to Miami for a listening day gathering at a community center in Wynwood. Hundreds showed up. One woman stood to speak. Her name was Linda Carter. "I hadn't spoken to my sister in years because of politics," she said, voice breaking. "Your video made me call her. We sat for hours, just listening. Now we're planning a vacation together." The crowd applauded, not out of spectacle but from sincerity. Denzel walked over, eyes full of respect. "Linda," he said, "you did what many won't. You opened your heart." That moment was captured and posted to Instagram. It quickly became a new symbol of connection. Later that week, in a national television interview, journalist David Nguyen asked, "What do you think will remain after this moment passes?" Denzel smiled softly, his voice grounded. "I don't want to change the world. I just want us to remember we're human beings before we wear any label. Listening is the only way we begin to heal." David leaned in. "Your final advice?" Denzel looked straight into the camera. "Find someone you think you could never understand. Sit down with them. Ask them what matters most in your life. Then listen without interrupting, without arguing. Just listen. That's how we rebuild trust." This moment was never just about Denzel. It was about a nation learning how to come back to itself. And now it's your turn. Have you ever truly listened to someone you once saw as your opposite? If you have, share your story in the comments. Subscribe to hear more moments that change lives. Because if 90 seconds from Denzel could spark a national movement, just imagine what one conversation could do. Denzel Washington's 90 seconds didn't just move America, they ignited something far beyond its borders. 6 weeks after the Miami moment, his message of listening was being echoed in discussions across London, Sydney, and Tokyo. On X, people from around the world began sharing their own stories. I watched Denzel's video and called my best friend. We hadn't spoken in 3 years. In Australia, a teacher posted, "My students just held a debate and no one yelled. They said it was thanks to Denzel's message." International networks like BBC and Al Jazeera aired thoughtful segments asking, how did a Hollywood actor spark a global movement for empathy and listening? Back in the US, Listening Day kept growing. Thousands of communities hosted open circles not to win but to understand. Naturally, some remained skeptical. They dismissed it as a fleeting trend too soft to mend what's broken. But Denzel didn't argue. He refused to be politicized. He stayed anchored in one thing: sincerity. At a high school in Little Havana, Denzel attended one such circle. Hundreds of students and parents sat in a wide ring just talking. A student, Carlos Mendez, stood up. His hands trembled, but his eyes were steady. "My family always fights about politics. My dad supports one side, my mom the other. After your video, I asked them both to sit down. And for the first time, they listened to each other without interrupting." The room fell silent. Then came the applause, not for courage, but for hope. Denzel stepped forward, his eyes bright with pride. "Carlos," he said, "you did what many adults won't. You brought your family closer." That moment was captured on video. Within hours, it was everywhere on TikTok, a new symbol of what's possible. A 16-year-old had become the face of reconciliation. In a final interview with international journalist Emma Patel, she asked, "You've inspired the world. What do you think will endure from all this?" Denzel smiled gently, his voice grounded. "I don't want to change the world. I just want people to remember we can disagree and still be human. Listening is how we find each other again, whether it's in Miami or anywhere." Emma leaned in. "Your final piece of advice." Denzel looked straight into the camera. "Find someone you think is nothing like you. Ask them, what gets you out of bed in the morning? Then listen without judgment. That's how we start rebuilding trust." This moment was never just about Denzel. It was about a world learning to reconnect. Now it's your turn. Have you ever truly listened to someone you thought you could never understand? If you have, share your story. Because if 90 seconds from Denzel Washington could inspire the world, just imagine what one conversation could do. Denzel Washington's 90 seconds were never just a media moment. They became the seed of something lasting not just in America but around the world. 3 months later, Listening Day has become an annual tradition in dozens of U.S. cities, and it's spreading to places like Canada, Brazil, and Germany. Community groups are launching dialogue workshops inspired by one simple but powerful idea: listening without judgment. On social media, the hashtag number #ListenLikeDenzel is still going strong. One user from Toronto shared, "I invited a coworker to dinner. We used to argue constantly. Now, we're friends." Colleges have started including Denzel's speech in classes on peaceful dialogue. But some still question whether a movement like this can last in such a divided world. Denzel isn't trying to prove them wrong. He keeps the message clear. He refuses to let it become a political tool. And that quiet consistency, that's what's giving the movement strength. In Miami, he attends a community summit at the Coconut Grove Cultural Center. Hundreds gather from activists to everyday people united by one thing: the desire to learn how to listen. Angela Brooks, a longtime community leader, stands to speak. She's spent her life helping young people escape gang violence. "I've seen kids kill each other out of hate," she says. "But after seeing your video, I brought 2 rival crews into one room. They didn't agree, but they listened. And now, they're building a playground together." The room rises to its feet, not for applause, but because change is real. Denzel walks over, eyes full of respect. "Angela," he says, "you turned words into action. That's what we all need to do." That moment is recorded, and once again, it spreads across Instagram. A new symbol of unity. Later on, a global news network journalist, Lisa Moreno, asks, "You've created a legacy. What do you hope will live on from this?" Denzel shakes his head, voice steady and deep. "I'm not looking for a legacy. I just want to remind people we can disagree and still respect each other. Listening is the only way to find common ground. Lisa leans in. And your final message to the audience? Denzel looks directly into the camera. His voice is calm, but it lands like the heartbeat of something bigger. Find someone you think you'll never understand. Ask them what makes them happy. Ask what makes them afraid. And then, just listen. Don't interrupt. Don't argue. Just listen. That's how we start rebuilding the world. This moment is no longer about Denzel. It's about a world learning to come back together. Now, it's your turn. Have you ever truly listened to someone you thought was completely different from you? If you have, share your story in the comments. Hit subscribe to follow more moments that can change lives. Because if 90 seconds could spark a global movement, just imagine what your next conversation might do.